This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.
Welcome to the Fatigue Fixer podcast. Ever wonder why it feels like the entire sisterhood is just so darn exhausted? We're diving deep into everything from those sneaky physical culprits, think iron levels playing hide and seek or a moody thyroid, to the mental weights of always being on and that sneaky urge to please everyone. And let's not forget society's oh-so-high bar that we're tirelessly trying to reach. I'm Dr. Sarah Vedbonkar, your guide on this energy-finding mission. As a naturopathic doctor with over a decade of experience, I've been piecing together the fatigue puzzle, asking why so many incredible women around me, including my patients, often feel like they're running on empty. So pull up a chair or perhaps pop in your headphones and head out for a walk. Together we'll uncover those hidden, surprising, and sometimes even downright unexpected reasons behind that lingering tiredness. Ready to recharge those batteries? All right, deep breath. Let's jump into today's insightful episode. Welcome back to the Fatigue Fixer. Today I want to start by telling you a story. When I was 8 years old, the principal of my school called my house. Now, he didn't call because I was in trouble. He called because I had gotten a perfect score on several dictations in a row. I'm now 41 years old, and my mom still talks about this story because at our house, doing well in school was really important. And so what I learned at 8 years old is that doing well in school was a great way to get love and approval from my mom and dad. Achievement was the ticket to making them happy. And so I became a high achiever. I was a straight A student. I went and did so many degrees, went to naturopathic medical school. And like so many of the women that I see in my practice, achieving became my religion, something that I was really good at. Maybe in your family, you were rewarded for being a good helper or for being kind and doing things for other people. It's amazing how deeply we internalize some of those early messages. And for many of us, our self-worth is completely wrapped up in those things that we were praised for and rewarded for as little girls. It took me a really long time to figure out why I was so obsessed with productivity and to-do lists and getting as much done as I possibly could every single day. My definition of success was 100% tied into how much shit I could get done in one day. And as you can imagine, that was exhausting. There was a day that really changed things, and that was early in the pandemic in May of 2020. It happened to be my partner's 40th birthday. And here is just a short rundown of what I did that day. I got up in the morning, got my then 3-year-old son ready for the day, although he wasn't going anywhere because we were all stuck at home. I went to the office because I was having it repainted, and I met with the painter. On my way home, I stopped by a bakery to get my partner's favorite thing so I could make his favorite foods for breakfast. Came home, made said breakfast, fed everybody, then grabbed my son and walked to get my bike tuned up for the summer. Then I came home and baked a cake for my partner's birthday and made a charcuterie board because we were having 2 friends in the backyard for a socially distanced birthday get-together. I probably did a bunch of other things that I don't even remember, but what I do remember is sitting down at our kitchen counter at the end of the day and looking over at my partner and saying, I got nothing done today. And he looked at me like I had a third eye in the middle of my forehead. He was like, what do you mean you got nothing done today? And I corrected myself. I didn't get any work done today. And that was one of the first times I realized how much my obsession with getting work done was tied to whether or not I felt like I was having a good day. And that's when I really started to think about success differently. That's when I was able to really start untangling the web of self-worth and productivity and actually starting to have energy left in the tank at the end of my day. So today's episode is the one where you redefine success. I want to share with you, especially my dear fellow high achievers, people pleasers, firstborn, straight A student types, at how looking at your relationship to productivity is essential for fixing your fatigue and avoiding burnout. Because one of the things I've noticed, especially in the last couple months, is how many women in my practice are suffering from burnout right now. And in fact, a new poll recently found that 35% of all working Canadians feel burnt out. And I think a lot of us have this perception that if you can still get out of bed and get to work on time, that you aren't burnt out. Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but it's actually quite easy to meet the criteria for burnout. So burnout is a syndrome that results from chronic workplace stress that is not being successfully managed. And basically, there are 3 criteria to diagnosing burnout. The first one is feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, aka you're tired. Many of us probably would put a check mark beside that one. The second one is that you have increased mental distance from your job or feelings of negativity or cynicism related to one's job, meaning you're showing up and you're doing the work, but maybe you don't care or you're wondering what the heck the point of doing all this work is. And number 3 is reduced professional efficacy, meaning you're having a harder time getting your work done and you're struggling to meet the requirements of your job. So burnout is incredibly common right now. And basically what's happening with burnout is that it's an energy metabolism problem, meaning there is way too much energy going out and there is not enough energy coming back in. So I want you to think about how much energy you're spending every day, how many decisions you're making, how many little tasks you do, from making lunches, making breakfast, remembering that you need to pick up toilet paper, not to mention that you probably also have a full-time job. And if you're a parent, you've got the second shift with the homework, the driving to the activities, and trying to manage these little people's very volatile emotional landscape. It's a lot. And here's the thing that I know. Women are really good at giving away our energy. We're really good at doing and striving and producing and making to-do lists and crossing everything out. We're really good at meeting other people's needs. And so most of us are using and giving away a lot of energy on a daily basis. So why do we do this? Why do we tend to overgive our energy? Well, number one, we live in a society that is obsessed with productivity, right? How many books and podcasts are all about how to better use your time, how to be more productive, how to get things done more quickly? We love this idea of doing more and being more efficient with our time. And so we tend to spend so much of our time and energy just constantly trying to get more things done. And then for so many of us, and as I talked about, this is so true for me, our self-worth is so tied in to our capacity to either achieve and get things done, right? To perform at work, to be a good worker, to be someone who you can rely on. And then we also often are wanting to be a good person and a nice person and a helpful person who doesn't let people down, right? We have been conditioned from a very young age to not want to upset people, to not let anyone down. We've been told it's really important for us to be nice and to be helpful. And a lot of times we are so willing to exert energy in order to keep other people comfortable, right? We would rather that other people feel comfortable even if it means that we're sitting in discomfort. And then we're also often valuing other people's health and well-being more than our own. And I find this is especially true if we have kids, right? When I talk to women in my office, they're like, my kids have the healthiest lunches and they go to bed on time and all these things. And meanwhile, we're eating like old crust toasts from the side of their plate, right? We're feeding them these beautiful meals and then we're barely nourishing ourselves. So what is the cost of overgiving your energy? Well, the first thing that happens is that you're going to start to run into an energy deficit. And this is what happens when you consistently give more energy than the amount of energy that you're putting back into the system. So this is similar to when you spend more money than you save, right? Your bank account goes into overdraft, and the same thing can happen with your energy. When you wake up every morning and you give a bunch of energy and you don't do a whole lot to put energy back into your system, you're going to wake up the next day probably feeling tired because you created a little bit of an energy deficit. You gave more energy than you had, and now there's some missing. But you get up and you have a full day, so you do it all over again. You're giving out energy that you don't really have to give, and then there's nothing coming back in. And over time, this can create this massive energy deficit where it feels really hard to keep going because you don't have the energy you need. So this costs us so much on a personal level where it just makes every day so difficult because we're giving and giving and giving and not putting energy back into our system. There's also a cost when it comes to our families. And something I think about a lot is what we are teaching our kids about what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a mom. Because the way that most of us are doing it is that it is a role where you are constantly in a rush, we're often irritable, we're tired, we're overwhelmed. And the way that so many of us have taken on motherhood, and through no fault of our own, but through the way that society has placed these expectations on us, is that being a good mom means that you should give up everything that makes you you in service of your children. I don't want a parent like that. I don't know about you, but that is not the definition of being a mom that I subscribe to, because I really don't think that we are better parents or workers or spouses when we are running ourselves into the ground in the name of love for our work, our kids, or our family. So this year at Thanksgiving, I actually spent the day by myself at the spa. And I did this not in spite of my love for my son, but I did it because of my love for him and my desire for him to have a happy, relaxed, and patient mom. So many times we give up all the things that make us happy and relaxed and ourselves because we think that that is somehow a benefit to our children. And I would argue that it is not. So again, how are you defining success? When it comes to your work, your family, your parenting. I personally refuse to become a martyr in the name of love for my son. I want to help teach my son what health really looks like. I want him to see what it looks like to take time for rest when I need it, and to have time for myself. I want him to know that my Pilates class and my dance class are as important as his hockey. And I also want him to see what an equitable relationship looks like. I want him to see that it is not the woman or the mom's job to do all the things while dad sits around watching sports. If we want to create a new way of living, especially for our daughters, but also for our sons, we need to show them what that looks like. And if we're going to break the cycle of women being the ones constantly overgiving and burning ourselves out, we need to model what that looks like. And modeling is really taking care of your own needs and wants so that you can show your kids how it's done. Because we can tell them about these things, but we all know that kids see everything. They are watching and internalizing what they see in their house. And now I'm not saying this to make you feel bad about how you parent or guilty about, giving your time and energy to your kids. But I hope that this can maybe be a wake-up call to really have you think about what you want for your kids when they grow up. Do you want your kids to feel the way that you do right now when they grow up? And if the answer is no, you owe it to them and to yourself to show them a different way of being a woman and being a mom in this society that is obsessed again with productivity and doing. And then there's also a massive societal costs, because when we are overgiving our energy and we are tired and we're burnt out, we're not able to show up fully in our lives. And I know that women have incredible gifts to share. But most of us are so tired from just trying to make it through the day that it often feels like a pipe dream to have the time and energy to share your gifts. Maybe you would love to write a book. Maybe you are an artist who dreams of creating art or music. Maybe you want to run for your kids' school PTA, or maybe you have political aspirations. We need female leadership in this world, and the world is missing out on our powerful gifts and the energy that we have to share because we are constantly overgiving. We are constantly burning ourselves out in the name of being, again, like a good mom or a good worker or a good spouse. And I think this is not what we had envisioned for ourselves. I know it's not what I had envisioned for myself when I pictured myself, in my 40s as a mom. So this is why I think redefining success can be so powerful. And this episode was inspired by a recent conversation I had with a patient who is on the recovery path from burnout. And we were talking about what would it look like if she redefined success? Because her version of success had been, like mine and probably like many of you listening, had been all about achievement and performance. And that version of success for her led to burnout. And so we were talking about, as she's preparing to go back to work, what kind of new definition and version of success does she need to envision for herself in order to not go back down that same path? So what if success looked like having energy left in the tank at the end of the day? What if success looked like saying no when someone asks you to do something that does not feel aligned for you? What if success is having time and energy at the end of the day to read, write, puzzle, my personal favorite, or paint? What if success is showing our kids that mothering includes time for yourself, time with your friends, and time for your activities, not just driving everyone around to their activities? So my definition of success now has a lot less to do with how much I get done and a lot more to do with how well I listened to my body. And if you haven't listened to episode 2, which is the one where you hear your body speak, go and listen to that one. It's all about what it sounds and feels like when your body starts to speak and how you can listen. And I want to be clear. This is not perfectly said and done for me. I still catch myself on a regular basis getting sucked into this need to get more done. And I still love my to-do list, and I love the feeling of crossing off something on my to-do list. But I'm able now to go to bed at night feeling like I had a good day, even if I didn't get that much quote unquote done. Because what I'm trying to do now is to be more attentive to what my body actually just wants and needs on a daily basis, and doing my best to honor that as much as I can. So I'm going to encourage you to take a moment and pause this right now if you need to, and to really think about what success would look like if you redefined it with your energy, your health, and your well-being as your metrics of success. What would success look like if it wasn't all about productivity and achievement? And then 2 questions that I love to ask my patients when we're working on fixing their fatigue are these 2 questions that can help you pay off your energy deficit or your energy debt so that you can start having some energy left in the tank at the end of the day. Because a lot of times when we're feeling tired and overwhelmed, we sometimes feel like we need to make these radical life changes. And sometimes those are great, but a lot of times even very subtle changes can really start to shift things. So here are the 2 questions. Number 1, what is something that drains my energy that I can do less of, right? Most of us are so good, like I said, at spending energy. What is one small thing you can do less of that would allow you to spend a little bit less of your precious energy? And number 2, what is something that fills my cup that I can do more of? Because this is where so many of us need a little bit of TLC, is we need to prioritize activities and things that fuel us, that put energy back in our system, that fill our cup. Because when we are busy and overwhelmed and doing all the things, that's usually the last thing that we will prioritize. We will make sure that everybody else's needs are met and that all the things are done, but then we run out of time and energy, and the things that are important to us don't get done. Because here's the thing, no one is handing out gold stars anymore for getting a perfect score on your dictation or your work project or your kids' lunches, right? Those of us who got so much out of this achievement and this striving, we're still doing that as if we're going to get a gold star from someone. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with striving and achieving. It's still an important part of what we want to do and need to do to get through the day. But can we find a better balance between the doing and the being? Our obsession with being productive and getting as much done as humanly possible, it's killing us slowly. It's making us tired and overwhelmed and often anxious and depressed. And I often think of the work of Bronnie Ware, who worked in palliative care and sat with people in the last 3 to 12 weeks of their lives. And you probably have heard these before, but these were their top 5 regrets. 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. When my time comes, I don't want to have these regrets, and I assume that you don't either. I have no doubt of your capacity to work hard and achieve. Most of the women that I know and that I see in my practice are super hard workers and overachievers. The crazy part is we never feel that way. We often feel like we're not doing enough and we're failing and we're underachieving. And I know how hard and uncomfortable it can feel to slow down and actually take care of ourselves because we live in a society that makes us feel lazy or selfish when we slow down and we take care of ourselves. But I don't want you to go to bed feeling like you didn't do enough, even after a full day of hard work. I know what that feels like to to spend my whole day getting stuff done and still going to bed like I didn't do enough. So that's why I'm working on changing my definition of success. And maybe now would be a good time for you to redefine your own version of success. Thanks for spending your precious time with me today. Remember, it takes a village or a podcast community to really make a dent in this fatigue epidemic. If today's episode resonated with you, do me a favor. Share it with a friend or two, and if you have a second, drop us that shiny 5-star review. It means so much to me. Are you eager to solve your own personal energy puzzle? Hop on over to fatiguefixer.ca/quiz and check out my fatigue fingerprint quiz. Let's pinpoint what's standing between you and feeling your best. A big thank you to Jen Hudson and Drew Gardner over at Story Studio Network for bringing these conversations to life. And hey, just so you know, I've got your back. Your fatigue, it's super real, and it's definitely not just all in your mind. I see you and I believe you. Every 2 weeks, we'll keep these heart-to-hearts going, learning together and cheering each other on. Because between you and me, accepting perpetual exhaustion as the norm, that's not going to fly around here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.